Hello there, and welcome to Market Insights. I am Lavina Emma. Today, we're exploring how social media has revolutionized the way businesses operate, connect, influence, and thrive globally. Now, remember when businesses used to rely solely on traditional advertising like newspapers, radio, and television were the main avenues to reach potential customers. But we still use them today. We still use newspapers, radios, and television to reach our customers to advertise business products. Well, today, the business landscape has been revolutionized by a force that is smaller than your palm, but it is more powerful than any marketing campaign of the past, and that's social media. Social media has leveled the playing field in the business sector. It has given businesses of all sizes the direct line of communication with their target audience. And it's like having a personal conversation with millions of people at once. Now, think about it. You can share your brand story, engage with customers, and gather valuable feedback. From real-time market insights to unparalleled customer engagement, social media has bridged the geographical divides and transformed the business world. We are no longer passive customers, we are now active participants in the conversation, and businesses that listen always respond and engage with their customers, and those are the businesses that always thrive. So this morning, we will examine how social media has democratized access to global markets, the rise of influencer marketing and its impacts on consumer behavior, the role of social media in crisis management and brand reputation, and the intersection of social media and e-commerce. So it's time to jump on the social media bandwagon because in today's digital age, it's not just a trend, it's a necessity for all of us.
Right.
So my guest this morning is King David Dowdy. He is the founder and CEO of SPC Universe. It is an ecosystem building, that's the SPC Universe. It's an ecosystem building that is on a mission to build the world's largest network of digital innovators. King David has 7 years experience as a digital business development consultant with a great passion for digital transformation across the globe. He is also the convener of Africa's largest and collaborative summit for digital innovators called Africa Digital Innovation Summit. It is a pan-African expansion summit that holds across the 4 regions of Africa, spotlighting the digital innovation ecosystem and her role in promoting African continental free trade area. So welcome to Market Insights again, King David Dowdy.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure to always be here and to share some relevant information with your audience. And I look forward to today's conversation.
Great, great. Glad to have you on the program. So, first of all, let's talk about, I mentioned that in the past, most business owners use the traditional means of advertising their business products, such as on the television, on radio, and also there's the word of mouth from customers also. But in the 21st century, we've found that these new social media apps, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now called X, and TikTok and other social media apps are now being used by business owners to reach their customers and also advertise business products. So how has this transformed the business landscape so far?
Absolutely. So first of all, it's the first thing we need to understand is to kind of get the fact that the world today is a global village. And because of the fact that it's a global village, you can literally get anything done from wherever it is that you are. So you do not need to be in, let's say, Kenya before you can develop relationships with people in Kenya. You do not also need to go and set up a physical structure in, let's say, South Africa before you are able to do business in South Africa. So when we look at the whole idea of what social media has done, the first thing that is important to note is the fact that social media is basically a global village. So you want to call it a global continent, you want to call it a global ecosystem, whatever word you want to call it, but you need to understand that what social media has done is it has been able to connect everybody, regardless of where you are, regardless of your tribe, regardless of your race. You can literally connect with anybody from across the world. And now you begin to look at it from the business perspective of things, right? A lot of businesses have two major problems. If you put out a poll today and you talk about what are the two major problems that you're facing as a business, the feedback that you're going to get would be the first problem we are facing is access to capital. The second feedback you're going to get is the second problem we are facing is marketing, sales, and access to markets. Now, these two problems that already exist, that a lot of businesses is their two major problems, these two problems can actually be solved with as simple as social media. So social media can actually solve these two problems because that target audience, I don't really know what it is that you're selling today that you cannot get. Like I tell people, Facebook, Instagram especially, are not necessarily just social media platforms. Those are marketing, that's like a marketing agency on its own. That's a whole marketing company. Facebook and Instagram are marketing companies. The social media is just the community infrastructure to things. So this fundraising problem, this access to markets problem, these are two major problems that can actually be solved with social media, because you can stay in Nigeria and you can run targeted ads in Ghana, and you can actually get Ghanaian people who would click on the ads, ask you about your product, and even buy that product from you. So like when we hosted ADIS, like I was saying in the event then, I said, social media allows us to connect much more effectively, and the whole idea of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area can actually work more with social media and the rise of digital innovation. Because right now, I do not need to be everywhere to be everywhere. For instance, we run a network organization. Currently, we are in 18 countries on the continent, and we are currently expanding into Asia and Europe. And when we say these things, it's not like we have physical infrastructures or physical building in these countries, but we run robust communities of founders, of talents, of investors in these particular markets. So automatically, this has already given us presence in this market. We can literally make a lot of things happen in this market. Like we can make a lot happen in this market without us having any physical infrastructure in those markets, right? So that's a huge opportunity. And then you look at the second part again for businesses, which is on fundraising. And, previously people would say, oh, you had founders who would have to maybe run to the United States or, go to Europe, the whole Japa culture and the rest of that. All of this because they're trying to gain access to capital. However, now you can sit down, you keep seeing people announcing, African founders who are in Africa, who are in Africa and servicing Africa, announcing that, oh, we just closed this round, we just raised this amount of money, we raised X amount of money. 70 to 80% of these communications and these conversations actually took place over social media. In fact, we now live in the days where there is what they call your social CV, right? So if you are applying for, let's say in the UK, maybe you're applying for technician visa or you're applying for funding, a lot of these guys will go first to check your social media CV. They want to check your social media presence. Do you have some level of presence? Who knows you? Is there anybody that is there, like a connection that maybe they respect, that is following you, and the rest of that? So all of these things are very, very important. You then see founders are able to use social media to connect directly with their investors, connect directly with those who can actually fund what they're doing. And people are staying in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, across the continent, and raising millions of dollars from investors who are not in the continent. This would have been investors that would have been absolutely difficult to connect with. It would have been absolutely difficult to set up a conversation, and it would have been absolutely difficult to even talk of closing a round. So it can't be overemphasized. I don't care whether you are, let me come down a bit. I don't care whether you are selling food, or you are selling cloth, or the most simple of things. Anything it is you're selling, hair, food, clothes, cosmetics, name it, whatever it is you're selling, you can actually sell it on social media. Let me tell you something. Not just can you sell it on social media, you can sell it and make 10 times what you were making by just sitting down there, maybe in your shop and trying. Let's say you have a shop today right now and you have a boutique, and all you've been doing is waiting for people to come into your boutique. You can literally 10x your revenue in the next 4 to 6 months by actively paying for social media ads every day and creating a funnel for conversion for these people. So yeah, this is what social media is doing in our world today. And anybody who's not taking advantage of it is, I don't even know what to say for the person.
Okay, well said. Thank you for that, King David. Like, you really expanded the discussion. Okay, now looking at all these benefits, which you mentioned, a lot of them. Now, how has social media successfully democratized access to the global markets for a lot of business owners?
Okay, great. So again, let me talk about this from the perspective of global expansion, right? So normally in the past, as a business, if I start in the market like Nigeria, I have to validate in the Nigerian market, get things right in the Nigerian market. And then after I've gotten these things right in the Nigerian market, I would have to have maybe generated a whole lot of revenue and keep an expansion budget and say, okay, right now, we now want to expand into Ghana, or we now want to expand into Kenya. So if you check the companies that were existing before, you can see that, some of them began their expansion curve within maybe 5 years of, doing the business, or even sometimes 6 years or more of doing the business. Now, all this was because in those particular era, for you to expand, you need to go to this market. You need to, set up there was no other way you could expand if not getting into this market, setting up, doing all the necessary things that you need to do before you can even attract customers who would be interested in that your particular, business to try to buy or work with you. However, in today's world, you can literally, again, like I said before, you can create a product that can service, let's say, the Nigerian market. And then you run a research in other markets and see that, these other markets have similar consumer behavior in those markets. So what this product that is already working in Nigeria will most likely also be able to work in these other markets. Normally, you would have needed to spend a whole lot of cost and then move to those markets and then do all the process involved for you to actually be able to get stability in those markets. But now you would spend less and you would still be fully in the Nigerian market, but you can literally launch in the Ghanaian market and start onboarding customers. So you literally validate, have customers, have people who are interested in this thing, who are already paying you for that service, before you not even go and set up a physical structure there or decide to go there and maybe incorporate a company there and decide to officially maybe start servicing the market on scale. So you've already expanded into those markets just by simply leveraging on social media. So let me make this more practical so that it can be more clear to viewers. Let's say you run an edtech startup or you run an edtech company, maybe a talent company. You are training people on how to get into digital skills, for instance. Now, you can literally be in the Nigerian market training Nigerian talents, and then you wake up one day and you say, okay, right now, I want to expand into Ghana and I want to expand into Kenya. Previously, you would have had to go to get into Ghana and then set up a training center where you start sharing flyers with people and trying to get people to come for the trainings in the center. But now you do not need to go through that process. All you need to do is to do what? You can set up a campaign for Ghana. The highest you can even do is to find a popular Ghanaian influencer face that a lot of people know, give the person a couple of bucks. The person would do a video, inviting Ghanaian people, say, Charlie, this is for you. If you want to take a course, click on the link below and learn more. And automatically, you're going to generate hundreds, thousands of leads from Ghana who would show interest in that course. And then you would, through your funnel and whatever process you're using for conversion, you're able to upsell to them your program. And you now have students from Ghana. Obviously, it's a virtual program. You are doing both virtual and physical. But at the moment, you can only offer physical in Nigeria because offering physical in Ghana means you need to set up an infrastructure. So what has happened for you here now is that you've onboarded students from Ghana, you've onboarded students from Kenya, and automatically you're already servicing those markets. So maybe after you've trained, like, let's say 100 students in Ghana and 100 students in Kenya, you can now decide and wake up and say, all right, I now want to go and set up a physical structure in Ghana and a physical training center in Kenya, so that students as well can opt in for both physical training and both virtual training. So this is what these things could only be possible with social media. In the past, there was no other way. You have to spend a lot of money upfront. This one, you can literally make money from the market first, and then use the money you've made from the market to now decide if you want to set up a bigger structure in that particular market. So these are this is a very simple example of how social media, contributes directly to connecting anyone with global market. So really, you can be anywhere today and you have customers from 20 countries, 30 countries, servicing 30 different markets, and you're doing just fine. And you're spending lesser than what you would have spent in the past if you had to do the same.
Thank you for that, King David. But for example, let's say a startup, for example, a startup who is probably starting a training company, wants to be training teachers, for example, teachers across Africa on how to use the internet to improve their education, how to use the internet to impact children better now. And he has trained teachers in some schools in Nigeria, and he wants to take this knowledge to other countries in Africa, like to Ghana, to Kenya, even to Rwanda, for example. And he has been applying, he has been trying different means. What do you think of the role of social media influencers in this kind of scenario? Because it's not just about creating a digital platform. Yes, that works, but you have a product and you also need some key people to drive this product. So what are your thoughts on social media influencers?
Yeah, so social media influencing comes in multiple ways. The first thing, before I even talk about the influencer part of things, because a lot of times everybody says I'm an influencer. Not every influencer is an influencer. The first thing we need to understand is the whole idea of branding. So what influencing does for you basically is trust. It gives you a persona, a brand persona, and that's what allows this particular fashion designer to sell these clothes at 1 million and another fashion designer to sell it at 100,000. It's basically brand persona. So the same thing as well in this scenario, right? Again, like you rightly mentioned, if you have not yet built a certain kind of branding, because that's one of the things we faced as we are scaling, is that when you want to actually scale, you need to pay attention a lot to branding. So like I said, influencing can come from different things. Influencer is not that somebody has 1 million followers on their social media. That's not the meaning of influencer. Influencer is someone who is an authority within a certain niche or within a certain sphere. So let's say I am into a certain sector like this, the training sector you mentioned. If you are getting into something like the Ghanaian market, and now you've looked at it and you've seen that, okay, if I just run a normal maybe campaign, maybe just a flyer campaign or a simple video campaign with just any face, I may get feedbacks, but I'm not going to get as much feedbacks as I want to get, right? So I say, okay, how about I go and use maybe Juliet Ibrahim, or how about I go and use maybe Nadia, how about I go and use any other top Ghanaian maybe actress or creative or celebrity. In Nigeria, you have more content creators who are big. Nigeria has like the biggest content creators in Africa. So how about I use this actor? How about I use this actress? Now the goal of using, and now this is another point I need to make. If you go and use that influencer just because you want them to make a video and post, and then you believe that because they've made a video and they have posted, their audience will just click on the link and you make sales, you waste your money. And this was happening to a lot of people. A lot of people get influencers, and then when they get these influencers, they just pay these influencers. The influencers do a video and they post, and that's it. So you have to use influencer marketing alongside with lead generation, which is social media ads, obviously. So this is the best way influencer marketing is used. You are basically using the person's face. Basically, your main reason for influencer marketing in that scenario is the person's face. So you get the person to shoot a video, and then you're not just depending on the video the person is going to post on their wall and then tell people to go and follow or go and engage and get whatever product. But you're going to take that video that the person has shot, and then you're now going to run an ad on that video targeting the market. So let's say it was a Ghanaian actress you used. Now you're using that video to target Ghanaians. Now, they would respond to you faster because number one is that that ad is a lead generation campaign ad. Number two, the face of the video is someone that they know, and what it has done for you is that it has increased your brand persona and the trust on that thing that it is that you want to tell them, that product you want to tell them. So yeah, influencer marketing is a very, very powerful tool. A very, very powerful. I remember a friend of mine who runs an edtech. He used Kule Remi sometime last year, and for like over 8 months, that particular video campaign that he paid about $1 million to do the video. He had used that particular video to generate tens of thousands of leads, and a lot of these people had paid for the course. These are courses that were within 300,000-400,000 naira. So when you times the number of people that they were able to generate from that campaign, they had made more than 30x of how much they spent on the influencer marketing. But if he had just paid Kunle and then expected because Kunle has posted that they're just going to get sales and make a lot of money, maybe they would have just struggled to make back the same money they gave him. So influencer marketing has to be used strategically alongside active social media campaigns, and that's how you get the best out of it. But if you combine it effectively, it can be a very powerful tool for growth as well.
Okay, well said. Thank you for that, King David. Now, let's look at expansion for companies. Now, different companies that having different types of businesses. So how can companies leverage social media for international expansion if they want to go outside their original sphere?
Okay, so yeah, just like I mentioned again, using I used Africa as a case study, right? And I'm going to use the global markets, Europe and Asia as a case study. A lot of times in these other markets, so I believe in expansion through partnerships, and let me just explain quickly what I mean for that. So most of the time, let's say you are a fintech that is based in Nigeria, you're based in Africa, you have an opportunity for expansion into Europe. You have an opportunity for expansion into Asia. You can actually get into European markets. You can actually get into Asian markets and actually start making things happen there. So, but how do you use social media to drive this expansion? Because that's the whole point of this conversation. So in this type of market, the best thing for you would be strategic partnerships. And again, this is where social media plays a key role. Let's say that I'm a fintech who is based in Nigeria, and then I'm looking at possibly servicing the European market, or I need to be able to make payments because expansion comes in different phases. There is expansion of I need to be able to operate in this market. There's expansion of I need to be able to maybe pass a service through this market. Those are also expansion. So like in fintech's case, the thing expansion may not necessarily be I want to service European people, but I want to be able to do remittance in Europe because I have African Nigerian clients or African clients who want to be able to maybe send or receive money directly from Europe. So, but I'm already servicing the Nigerian market now. Me expanding into Europe and all of that, how do I do that? Now, this is where strategic partnerships comes to play. So, leveraging again on social media, there are already existing players who are already playing in the European markets. And these players who are already playing in these European markets, they already have the licenses. They already have they have everything. They have the infrastructure, the licenses, the technology to be able to do payouts in the European market. So me, myself, right now, who is also based in Nigeria, and I already have Nigerian clients, and I want to be able to do payouts in the European markets, you can simply partner up with this, and all this obviously happens over social media. You can connect to this person maybe on LinkedIn. Most times for this type of strategic connections, best done on LinkedIn. You can connect to this person on LinkedIn and then send the person an intro on, oh, this is what we are doing. We want to also be able to process, send payments into Europe. So we want to partner with you to be our payment processing partner in the European market. And for that, in exchange of that, we're also going to allow you or partner with you to also help you to process payments as well within Africa. So what you've basically done is you've created a bridge between your offering and their offering. And now through them, you are now already operating in the European market. Through them, you are now also servicing the the European market as well, right? Another example again, the first example was on fintech. Another example again is on HR outsourcing, talent outsourcing companies as well. So you're a talent outsourcing company, maybe in Nigeria or in Africa, and then you look at and you say, okay, I want to be able to, maybe all you've been doing so far is outsourcing your talent to maybe African startups or Nigerian startups and the rest of that. And you say, I want to be able to outsource these guys to US companies, Europe companies, and the rest of that. Again, social media plays a key role here. What do? You reach out to HR companies who are already in the European market, in the US market, and the rest of that. And you let them know that, see, I have access to, obviously, you don't need to explain too much. And everybody knows that Africa is the next frontier of talent pools for the world. Africa is going to export talent for the world in the next couple of years. So you let them know that I have access to a robust talent pool here in Africa, and I'm happy to work with you at even better rates, because some of them are even looking for more affordable talent that they can work with. Some of these HR firms who are working with Europe companies, most of the talents in Europe, they are charging per hour and the rest of that. A software development talent in Africa can take half of what a software development talent in Europe is taking and still do much more fantastic work. So you let them know that I can actually give you talents as well from Africa. That's basically what companies like Andela did. Andela started in Nigeria, and they basically struck partnership systems that allowed them to outsource talents from Nigeria and from Africa to companies in Europe and in the US, right? So you set up that bridge of partnership again through social media, and that's where social media comes to play, because before they even listen to you, there will be some level of social media activity, branding on your part, content on your part, which is where content creation is key. You can't just be on social media and just be clapping for everybody and liking everybody's post and gossiping from one comment section to another. That's a very fruitless way of using social media. They should come through your social media and see that you are doing that thing that you said or you're doing. So you set up that bridge of partnership, they check your social media and see that, okay, this person actually has access to these talents. And automatically, you're already operating in that European and US market. Because why? You're not able to outsource your talents to Europe, outsource them to US, get paid in euros, get paid in dollars. That is operating in those markets already. So that's the beauty of this. And again, social media is basically the foundation of how this type of connections can actually happen.
Let's take a break now. When we return, we're going to discuss further with King David on crisis management, using social media to manage your brand, and also crisis management. Still on our discussion now, before we talk about crisis management and brand reputation, using social media as a tool for these things. Now, let's talk about, the advantages of having influencers, also the advantages of partnerships, like you mentioned before we went on the break now. So what are the challenges of this influencer marketing and partnerships? Could you just share some tips for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So they all come with their own challenges. I think as I was talking on influencer marketing, I talked a little bit on some of the challenges. When you look at influencer marketing, for instance, we are presently in a world where everybody's an influencer. In fact, I tell founders that the best influencer you can be is your own influencer. You can actually build personal influence around yourself. It's not about having millions of followers again, but you can build personal influence around yourself, whereby, you can actually drive influence to your brand. Because one of the major challenges you face with influencers is that you have a lot of influencers who are just influencers, because they are able to do giveaways and they don't have a quality audience. Because one of the things about influencer marketing is audience and brand perception. There are some influencers you use and people, I don't want to call names, right? But there are some influencers you will use and people will take your, they will be like this kind of brand, it will just mess your brand persona up. So one of the things that you want to do, one of the challenges you want to avoid is choosing influencers that, number one, they do not have a very good audience. They have an audience that is not healthy. There is what they call having an audience that is not healthy. Number two, they do not actually have a buying audience. A lot of influencers don't have a buying audience. Let me now just tell you that. If that's one of the biggest challenges you will face, that a lot of influencers do not have a buying audience. And because they do not have a buying audience, what happens to them is they just get up and you just see a lot of engagement, a lot of likes, but no real activity, right? So that's one huge challenge that comes from the influencer marketing part, having to get influencers who have a good audience, a buying audience, and their face value, which is also important. Influencers' face value appreciates and depreciates over time. Last year, an influencer's face value could be higher or could be lesser. The influencer just needs to do one thing wrong. He just needs to do one thing wrong, and the person's face value could be a disaster. So you could have even shot a video with an influencer now who everybody likes, and then maybe one useless communication, or they said something that people did not like, and the way the people are dragging them, and their face value at that moment cannot really drive you much engagement. So those are some of the challenges from the influencer marketing part. On the part of partnerships is a whole, I normally tell people to, if you're not someone that has the energy for partnerships, maybe you want to get someone in charge of a partnership. Partnerships is basically a relationship building skill. Because in as much as it's on social media, it's even harder to create real life connections on social media than it is to even create in real life. Because if I meet you in real life, you can easily assess me and decide if you want us to have a good relationship moving forward or not. But on social media, people are perceiving you from your social media brand presence, which is why I talk about brand presence a lot. They're perceiving you from your social media brand presence. They're perceiving you from, how you chat to them, how you communicate with them. Are you being desperate or no? Let's, close this out now, right now. So communication is one of the biggest challenges of when it comes to partnerships. It's like the biggest challenge because they don't know you. They've never seen you before. Maybe the person is even based in another country. You guys may not even be speaking the same language. Language could even be another huge barrier. So the only way that you can pass through most of these challenges with partnerships is basically, especially when it's done on social media, is basically to not just focus on, let me just close this out, let me just close this out, but more focus on trying to forge real relationships with these people. So people know when you are forging real relationships and they know when you are forging transactional relationships. So when you try to forge transactional partnerships immediately, you struggle to get them. But when you try to build real connections with people that you have in mind to forge partnerships with, what happens is that you build those real connections with them first, and then it becomes easy for you to now forge those partnerships with them. So these are the two challenges that mostly are seen from both influencer marketing and both on the side of partnerships.
Okay, thank you for that, King David. Yes, you've shared the challenges and also the solutions to these issues and how business owners can avoid these challenges, or when faced with these challenges, they can also successfully address them and solve them with ease. Now, I'm looking at crisis management and brand reputation. Every business owner on social media wants to have a very clean sheet, a very clean slate. They don't want anything that will tarnish their reputation or their brands. Now, how can social media be used as or rather, how can companies maintain a positive brand reputation on social media?
Okay, so first of all, maybe I would say there is no such thing as a positive brand reputation because it's all brand perception. Like I say, branding is all perception. There is no way that you have a full positive brand reputation on social media because you have a certain set of people who may not agree with your product or agree with how you're trying to solve a problem, and will definitely want to always find problems with that. So I think what is important is this, and this is very important to a lot of founders. When you are building a social media brand persona, don't be as worried about trying to keep a good face as more invested in servicing the problem you came out to do. Now, this is very key. I've seen a lot of founders that, they are so concerned about their public, their brand persona, and all of that. The more you scale, a lot of people will disagree with you more. A lot of people would want to even come and say some shitty things about your brand. Even the ones that you didn't do, they want to come and say it on your comment section and all of that. So one of the things that you want to do is you have to make sure that your customers, and then if you have investors, your investors. Now, these are the people who have believed in your brand. These are the people who have decided to put in their, it's not just mouth of advice or mouth of talk, but they put in their money, they put in their resources into your brand. They've contributed maybe to your revenue in your brand. These are the major people that you want to focus on, right? And these are the major people that you want to make sure that your brand is serving. So as long as you're serving these people well, and these people have positive feedbacks about their experience with you, when they come in contact with your brand, they get that positive feedback. The reason why they came into the brand, they are able to get a lot of value, far more than even what they paid for. Then automatically you already have a good brand persona, because your customers are the ones that will determine your brand persona. Your outside noise and all the outside people trying to say everything, they cannot really say much if your customers are happy, because they can try and try and try. But the first thing is that when people go and check and say, are the customers happy? Are the people working, their customers, are they happy? Now, on the flip side again, you can also have unhappy customers, because in business, it is not, you can never say that, oh, every customer will be happy. That's a delusion. The more you scale, the more you have unhappy customers and the rest of that. And that's where customer service comes to play. You want to make sure, is this customer's reason for unhappiness, is it justified? Because there are some customers that just choose to be impossible and they do not follow maybe a system of how things are supposed to happen and the rest of that. And then after, they try to put that blame on the company. So you want to have strict policies for that. But then if you have good customer experience systems, you should be able to know when the problem is coming from the company as a product. And then when you know that the problem is, let's say, your product, or the problem is your service, you have to make sure that you work on that product or service, because that's when you start having bad brand persona. Let's say you're a flight ticket company, or you're a flight, the way you have airpiece and the rest of that. We've seen a lot of this drama from back and forth happen a lot of times. No one is saying that everybody will be satisfied, but when you check and you see that, oh, over a period of a month, more than, let's say, over 50 customers or 100 customers have had issues with maybe flight delay, flight these, all those problems. All those things are already affecting your brand persona. And at that point, you know that it's time to, go back to the product and modify it. So this to me is how I perceive branding and maintaining that whole, I call it a good face on social media.
We'll still talk further on this, but let's talk about these social media apps. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have X. Before it was called Twitter, but now it's called X. And we have WhatsApp. We also have Telegram now. As in the news a few weeks ago, the owner of Telegram, Pavel Durov, was arrested in France, and he was arrested because, according to French authorities, he failed to prevent criminals from using Telegram to commit crimes on his social media app. Now, looking at the benefits of social media and the people who have created this, yes, they are making money from it, and people are using these apps all over the world now. Should the owners of these apps, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Telegram, be held accountable for what users do on these apps? First of all, let's start with that before we talk about businesses all over the world now.
So I don't like getting into this part of social media conversation, because that's where I start saying things that sound like conspiracy theories. Anyway, the point is that I didn't know we'll get to this conversation anyway. But since I've been asked, social media at the moment is more than just marketing, business, sales, and everybody. There is a dark side of social media. Which is the fact that social media allows information to circulate like this. Social media also allows what they call freedom of speech, which is one of the fundamental human rights that we have. However, we live in days today where governments of nations, people who run governments behind the scenes, people who fund some of the greatest evil we know in our world today, do not actually enjoy this information being circulated at free cost. Now, the whole idea of free speech on social media, because that's the whole attack right now that is going on in social media platforms. The whole idea of free speech on social media is not necessarily that say what I like, or free speech means that everybody should be able to say their opinion how best they want to say it. There are people that argue and say, oh, but free speech can be dangerous and the rest of that. But the moment you start putting a box on free speech, that means you are going to have people telling us what free speech should be and what free speech should not be. I don't think as human beings we want to get to that point. Presently today, we have only few social media platforms. X is like basically the only main social media platform where, we have that free speech and the rest of that. And he's one of the major, the government of nations. You saw Brazil the other day ban it, put a fine, some of all those type of things. The question is social media really the problem, or is there something else that is the problem, that social media is being the scapegoat, basically? For me, I don't think that the problem is trying to regulate free speech. I just believe that the problem is certain people do not want certain information to be easily circulated on social media, and hence they are trying to go for these platforms that promote, that allow these things to happen. Telegram is another platform. You can literally send anything on Telegram. So these are things that they are actually also going for. Recently, surprisingly, the most censored platform on social media, who is very compliant, because now that's another thing we should also look at. So Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all the companies owned under Meta Incorporated are very, very compliant. Like Facebook is one of the most compliant platforms when it comes to regulating information and speech. Surprisingly, the founder and CEO of Meta Incorporated, Mark Zuckerberg, came out some weeks ago with a letter and was talking about during COVID, when he was actually asked by governments to censor and take down a lot, by the United States government, to censor and take down a lot of posts that were made during COVID and during the election period. And in as much as some of these posts, they did not agree with taking them down, they had to take it down just to obviously be on the good books of the government. And now he was basically trying to say that moving forward, they will not be allowing governments to decide to them, what type of, like, they will basically decide it for themselves. So the whole idea of social media and the war we see on social media, the arrest of Pavel Durov, who is not actually the main target. The main target is Elon Musk. All of this drama is basically a fight of free speech, basically.
I think regulatory framework from these apps. Yes, you mentioned how Facebook and all the apps under Meta are really obeying what the government tells them to do and regulating, or perhaps censoring what people post on their social media apps. But do you think other social media apps should have a stronger regulatory framework going forward to avoid being arrested, or rather the founders being arrested in other countries?
So the question is, regulate what? Because that's the first question to ask. What are we regulating? It's like, are we regulating people should not talk
on these apps so they don't because people are free to post, like you said, it helps to regulate, it helps to there's free speech, so people are free to post anything they want to post. So if there's some form of app regulation there, it will not lead to anybody getting into trouble going forward. So do you think a regulatory framework should be put in place by all social media founders for people?
No, so obviously not. When you build a social media, you already know that it's a gathering of people who have opinions. So when they talk about regulation, obviously you can set algorithms that maybe kick away things like child pornography, or there are harmful contents that you can actually send, and they won't even be able to post it in the first place. But outside of all of that, the rest of the concept of, you cannot, when you start regulating how people post and what people post, automatically there has to be someone that determines what that regulation is going to look like. So that same person can also tell you, this is what to post and this is what not to post. You can't build an ecosystem such as social media on the foundation of regulations. Where I support regulation is on basically harmful content. And again, harmful content has been insulted, because when they say, oh, this content is harmful, what do you define by harmful content? Harmful content should be harmful content. Like those days when you see PG or you see 18 plus, you knew why it was 18. But now so my problem is the contents that are actually harmful and they do not classify it as harmful. Then the ones that are not harmful are the ones that are classified by harmful. So I don't think our world is in a place right now where we should trust anybody with the regulation of social media. You can regulate finance, you can regulate health, you can regulate all of these. But when it comes to social media is so dynamic that regulations would only just lead to more and more and more until people can basically not say anything on social media without going to jail.
Now, before we round up the program, how can businesses adapt to the constantly evolving social media landscape?
Basically, stay informed. again, I like this question you asked because it reminds me of 2016 when I started running Facebook ads. That time, Facebook will even give you credit, so you could run ads and pay at a later date. Those amazing days of Facebook, But right now, if the knowledge you knew of social media ads was only the knowledge you had back in 2016, you can't run ads now. So social media is obviously always increasing. The more our world scales, we'll begin to move into more even social immersive ecosystems like on the metaverse. And most of all these things, the only way you can keep on evolving and keep on staying in contact with how to build content. Some years ago, Instagram was all about pictures, images, and pictures. Now it's all about video. It's all about reels. So keeping in touch with this growth, keeping in touch with how each of these algorithms are performing. The way LinkedIn was performing in the past, or the way the algorithm on LinkedIn was doing is different from the way the algorithm right now is doing. Same to Instagram, same to Facebook, same to Twitter, which is now X. So one of the things that is important is keeping in touch, understanding how these technologies are constantly evolving. And as you understand how they're evolving, understand how their algorithm is responding to content so that you can know how best to create the right content. And then if you have, let's say, a social media person, a social media person manager or something who is working for you, you can also know if the contents they are creating, why it's gaining engagement or why it's not gaining engagement. So for businesses, you have to just keep in touch with it. It's fast moving, it's evolving. What Facebook was in 2021, in 2023, and even this year keeps on changing. So by next year, the algorithm could be totally different in a lot of things, and you just have to keep in touch with them. So for me, the answer is basically keep in touch, keep studying, keep learning.
Thank you very much, King David, for joining us on Market Insights this morning as we discuss the influence of social media on the business landscape. It was really great having this discussion with you. And I look forward again to talking about other things, social media, cyber security, and basically technology, digital technology with you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here, and I look forward to other conversations.
Many thanks for watching the program Market Insights as we discuss social media and e-commerce and how social media has really influenced businesses all over the world. And we had our guest, as he said, we need to keep learning, keep studying, keep evolving with the trends on social media. I am your host, Lavina Emma. Do stay tuned to the news updates on SOUQ News Television.